Baltimore. I welcome you all for today's session. Today, Maharaj will continue on the glories of chanting the holy name. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, please take over the call. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Om Vishnu, Daya Krishna, Prastaya Bhutale, Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamune, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurani Pacharine, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Kasyatya De Satarine, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So yesterday we explored the 10 offenses against the holy name, and it is understood, and this is a principle of Shastric presentation, there is always two aspects to the principle. One thing is what is to be done and what is to be avoided. In order to get the benefit of chanting the holy names, one has to carefully avoid the offenses. And these 10 offenses are foundational. These 10 offenses are so important to know and to understand that Srila Prabhupada often on his initiation ceremonies, he had the 10 offenses listed, and he would explain them also, or he would have someone else explain them. Because the essence of our practice of Krishna consciousness is to develop the quality of chanting that goes through the different stages. The first stage, and we can expect that this to be the first stage, is called Nama Parad. That means we are chanting, but still there are offenses. Next one is to work on avoiding the offenses and continue the process of chanting, and that is called Namabhas, where it's a glimmer or a reflection of the holy name. Just like before the sun actually arises, the light of the sun is seen first before the sun is seen. So that light is not the sun, but it is the indication of the sun's appearance. And it's also part of the sun also. So this Namabhas is the indication of our coming to the stage of chanting without offense, of pure chanting. So this Namabhas is like the light of the sun before the sun. And then Sudanam is the goal of chanting, to chant purely, where one can continually chant and be absorbed in the sound of the holy name. And that sound carries one directly into the association of Krishna through his holy name. Because we understand that the holy name of Krishna and Krishna is not different. Although that's often explained or often mentioned, it's hardly ever understood, because no one can understand the glories of the holy name fully as no one can understand the glories of the holy of Krishna fully. So when we went through the 10 offenses yesterday, now we're going to go to a continuous explanation of each of these offenses. Although I gave a brief summary of these 10 offenses, now we're going to hear it from a very authoritative source. This is Raghunath Das Babaji, who is the guru of Vijay. Vijay is the disciple who is inquiring into the glories of the holy name, and now he's getting an indication of what one has to avoid. And so Raghunath Das Babaji, I have share screen up, so I think you're able to see. He says, let us begin with the first offense. The Sutta Bhaktas, who have exclusively surrendered to Harinam, having giving up every material aspiration, such as the fruits of karma, dharma, gyan, tapasya, astanga yoga, and others. Therefore, to enviously criticize them is greatly harmful offense. Harinam cannot tolerate any blasphemy against them because they are engaged in propagating the transcendental teachings and factual glories of Harinam. Therefore, one must desist from being critical of the sadhus who are the guardians of Harinam and recognize their elevated status. One should join them in Sri Mahaprabhu's movement of Harinam Sankirtan and therefore instantaneously attract the mercy of Harinam. So sometimes those who are in that position to glorify and propagate the teachings of the Harinam, holy name, you might find some fault in them for whatever reason. Maybe there's something in their behavior that is not acceptable. But still, they should not be criticized. They are on the platform of distributing the mercy to other conditioned souls, and therefore they are recognized by Krishna as his representatives in this material world to do his work by spreading the glories of Sanatana Dharma. They are free from personal desires for gain through fruitive activities, the benefits that come by way of devotional service, the principles of gyan, or putting themselves in a position of being understood as great teachers, free from the results of austerity and the process of various types of yoga. So one should also become like them, as it says here, and therefore instantly attract the mercy of the holy name. If you want to elevate yourself in the process of chanting the holy name, then also spread the holy name also. Simply by making an attempt according to your position in life. What I mean by that is you may be a housewife, you may be a family man, you may be a student, you may be just an ordinary person, but if you use your position to reach people and give them the opportunity to understand the goal of life through the process of chanting the holy name, then, as it says here, one should join Mahaprabhu's movement, and therefore one will receive the mercy of the holy name. Now, Vijay is asking for explanation on the second offense. And as he says here, there are two different explanations. Intellectual hair splitting of the relative significance of the names and qualities of Sri Sadashiva, the foremost of the demigods, and Sri Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, and considering these personalities to be independent of each other, or thinking that they are competing with each other as the supreme is an offense. Such an intellectual posture is tantamount to polytheism and therefore a great hindrance in the growth of unaligned bhakti. To think that there's more than one God, although sometimes we say Bhagavan Shiva. Shiva is also called Bhagavan because he is very powerful and he also has a sampradaya also. But he is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's not independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who he receives his powers from. Everyone gets their power from the Supreme Lord, no matter who they are, even the demons themselves. When Prahlad Maharaj was questioned by his father, where do you get your power from? Prahlad immediately replied, in the same place you get yours, in the same place everyone gets their power, from Krishna, Vishnu. Of course, that's not pleasing to some people. Some, they think, well, my power is my power, it's something that I've developed. Persons like Kashipu, Ravana, and others, or even people in the material world who are very powerful, become very upset, or when they hear that their power is not their power, it's coming from somewhere else. But it's a fact, as Krishna says, that I am the source of everyone's ability. And so here it says, one must chant Harinam with the realization that Sri Krishna is the supreme of all the devas, including Sri Sadashiva, who received their powers from him, and thus certainly not independent of his control. Although Shiva is very powerful. The other explanation is that the Sarup of Harinam is Shivasya, the all-auspicious embodiment of the Shaktis of Sri Krishna, absolutely non-different from the fountainhead Sarup of Sri Krishna. To see Harinam and indeed the innumerable forms, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna as distinct from the form of Sri Krishna is a heinous offense. The name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna are intrinsically to the very Sarup of Sri Krishna himself, and are all 100% transcendental and non-different. To make a distinction between the Lord's name and his forms and consider them to be separate, but actually they are one, although they are categorized different, but they are also one, because under the influence, under the effects of spiritual energy, the absolute nature of everything of the Godhead is complete. Therefore, there's just like in the material world, something is relative to something else. A person's name is not their name. A person's activities are not the person. They may be connected to the person, but in the transcendental realm, the name is Krishna, the form is Krishna, the qualities are Krishna, his activities are also him. They're all absolutely one and non-different. Achintya, beta, simultaneously different and non-different, but mostly non-different in the realm of spirituality, because the Lord exhibits himself in different manifestations of himself, and each one is as good as the other, or as powerful as the other. To think otherwise is an offense. The third offense, the teacher who delineates the highest and the most esoteric tattva of Harinam is the true Nam Guru, the spiritual master, who initiates his disciple into the chanting of Harinam. To develop unflinching faith in Nam Guru is obligatory for the disciple. A person who, because of misinterpretation of Tattva, believes that non-guru is only conversant with scriptures dealing with holy name, and is therefore not well versed in the wider conclusions of Vedantic philosophy, commits a serious offense against the Hari name. The Guru realized in the Tattva Harinam is truly the best of all spiritual preceptors and must never be minimized. As we said, he is empowered by Krishna himself, and his knowledge is coming directly from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, to find fault, to minimize, to think he is an ordinary person who has become a little bit more outside of the ordinary, all of these things are mental speculations which lead to causing one not to take the instructions of the spiritual master seriously. And that is the result. When we minimize the spiritual master, then we don't take the instructions seriously, or we pick and choose according to what we prefer to accept or not accept. And therefore that causes us to commit offense. The third offense is that we have to understand that each one of these offenses that is committed minimizes the quality of our ability to chant. So it's all connected to the holy name. So one who doesn't follow the instructions of the spiritual master can expect to develop in the chanting of the holy name. Fourth offense here, this is a little technical. Whenever profound spiritual tattva is discussed in the Shastras, the tattva concerning Harinam is always placed on the highest pedestal. There are quotations from Hari Bhakti Vilas and from Rig Veda. O Supreme Sri Vishnu, your holy name is absolutely cognizant and all illuminating because the entire Vedic scriptures have emanated from him. Your name is the wellspring of spiritual bliss. The embodiment of Brahman is readily available and is full of transcendental knowledge. We meditate upon the purport of your name, discuss name among ourselves, and chant your name continuously. In this way we worship you. So to discuss the tattva of the holy name is another way to glorify the holy name. And it's actually supportive of the quality of our chanting. So we should that's what we're doing now. We're discussing the glories of the holy name. It's so important. It's actually a very integral part of our spiritual development as we try to make progress in our chanting. O Vishnu, ever since our faith in you has become steadfast, our desire to gain your direct audience has led us to offer incessant prayers at your lotus feet, which are the purifying agents of the hearts of the devotees and replete with relishable transcendental pastimes. We always hear the glorification of your unsurpassable qualities and praise them amongst ourselves. In this way, we have taken shelter of your all-powerful and all-purifying name. So the name is actually the panacea of all aspects of the process of bhakti. In other words, it includes everything. As we chant the holy names, we also develop in our understanding of the philosophy, in our worship of the deity, in our relationship with other devotees, in our day-to-day service under the instructions of superiors. All of these things are affected in a positive way when we take time to hear and chant the glories of your holy name. And then he goes on to explain this fourth offense again. Know for certain that the original primeval supreme personality of Godhead you seek is Shri Krishna. Worship him in this realization, for he is the ultimate goal of the Vedas, the absolute essence. And there are many statements that back that up. He is the embodiment of eternity, absolute knowledge, and divine bliss. The purpose of human life is to know him, to describe him, and the wonderful pastimes of his incarnations. Let us eulogize and worship that Supreme Lord according to our natural spiritual emotions and taste. So there are varieties of ways to glorify the Lord according to different moods and different tastes. In this way, we shall crown our lives with paramount success and continuously chant Harinam, which is dynamic, variegated, and omnipotent, all-powerful. To chant Harinam is the most relishable activity and the bestower of the greatest pleasure. Thus, we find the Vedas and the Upanishads. Upanishads are also part of the Vedas, which are the Shrutis. They also praise Sri Harinam and his incomparable potencies. The fourth offense is to castigate or minimize the Shruti scriptures. In other words, you'll find so many eulogies and glorifications of the holy name. To minimize that or to cut them off is a great offense. Through immense misfortune, some foolish persons give much weight to the innumerable instructions of the various Shrutis, yet neglect those particular Shrutis that establish the supreme position of Harinam. And the chanting of the Harinam is the most essential spiritual activity. This is very offensive because of the serious error. One fails to imbibe the proper sadhana and attachment for a holy name. One must comprehend that these Shrutis and their teachings are the actual essence of Vedic knowledge. Only then can one sincerely chant Harinam. So I'm going to stop the share for a minute, and I want you to go to Srimad Bhagavatam, our host here, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3, verse number 24, I believe it is. Six, 324, let's see. Let's go to, I'm sorry, text number 25. 25. Here we go. Because they are bewildered by the illusionary energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajnavalkya and Jamini and other compilers of religious scriptures cannot know the secret confidential religious system of the 12 Mahajans. They cannot understand the transcendental value of performing devotional service or chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, because their minds are attracted to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, especially the Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Rigveda. Their intelligence has become dull. Thus, they are busy collecting the ingredients for ritualistic ceremonies that yield only temporary benefits, such as elevation to Swargaloka for material happiness. They are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement. Instead, they are interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So here we see great personalities such as Yajnavalkya, Jamini, and others. They are also described as being unable to appreciate because they're diverted away and they are simply interested in the ritualistic performance of Vedic sacrifices and other types of pujas in order for material elevation. And therefore, we see that those who are fortunate are those who understand the exclusive glories and the position of the holy name and make the holy name their number one practice in this spiritual life. In other words, they place the holy name above everything else in the process of Krishna consciousness. When they do that, then they are considered to be the most intelligent of all, as it says in the Shastras, Krishna Varnas Tvata Krishna Sangampagna Saparshadam Yagyai Sankirtanai Prayayi Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Sumedasaha means those who actually have good intelligence. Su means good or great. Medasa refers to intelligence. The opposite is alpa medasa, or meager, or as Prabhupada would say, the head is filled up with cow dung, low intelligence. And so such persons cannot understand, accept, or even appreciate the Sankirtan movement of the Holy Name, which is the Yuga Dharma in this age, and it is the means for going back home, back to Godhead. If one performs all other ritualistic ceremonies and is very expert at performing these things and is known as a adhikari of these particular performances, but they do not understand or even give importance to the chanting of the holy name, they are considered to be dull and without any real benefit in their spiritual practice. It looks like spiritual, but it's material, as it says here, because they are not attracted to the same. They are interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which are the four activities of people in general in the material world. Okay, so just to illustrate that fourth offense and how even so-called great souls who are known for their spiritual or their practice in religious life are also seen as being without proper intelligence. And this verse is spoken by Yamaraj himself. He is one of the Mahajans, and he's speaking this to his followers, the Yamadutas, after they were thwarted in trying to take the soul of Ajamil because he had chanted the holy name of Narayan without offense. And ultimately, because of that, he was completely freed from all the reactions of the sinful activities which he had been committing for many decades. The power of the holy name is never to be explained. And all we know it is that it can bring one to pure Krishna consciousness simply by once. And we don't minimize that point, once chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Just once. It's very powerful. Purely, that is, of course. Okay, we can return to our share screen here. And okay. Okay, the fifth offense. To think that the qualities of Harinam described in the scriptures are either imaginary or exaggerated is a serious offense to the holy name. This mundane line of thinking is condemned in the scriptures, as for example in the Jamini Samhita, persons who disrespect the Shrutis, Smritis, and Puranas, which wonderfully glorify Harinam, with the speculative assertion that the glorification of Harinam within such scripture is mere exaggeration, are hurled down to the hellish planet known as Aksaya, the inexhaustible hell. The Supreme Lord instructs Sri Brahma in the Brahma Samhita, saying that persons who, after hearing about the wonderful results of chanting Harinam, refuses to develop sincere faith in Harinam, and on the contrary, expostulates that which elucidates, which expostulates that such elucidations of the potencies of the holy name are inflated panegyrics, which we mean is hyperboles or exaggerations, is hurled by me, Krishna says, into the deep gloom of material nescience after being dragged through excruciating suffering. Well, so it's not a small thing to glorify or to criticize the holy name, the scriptures, for speaking the glories of the holy name and thinking it is exaggeration, eulogy, just a way to get people to chant, but it actually has no truth in reality.
Hare Krishna Guru
Such
Maharaj,
offensive melody.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, sorry to interrupt. We cannot see your screen. You didn't share the screen, Guru Maharaj.
Oh, I didn't, huh? Okay, let me see here. Let me go back to, let's see here. Seem to can't get back here for some reason.
Guru Maharaj, you must be on full screen. Can you press escape on your keyboard?
Okay. I just pressed escape and I'm not escaping.
If you can exit from the full screen, you can see the other windows.
Yeah, let me see. I think I'm getting close here. One sec. Okay. Okay.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yes. Okay.
Well, at least you were able to hear me, right?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yes.
Okay, good. That's important. The scriptures have unanimously declared that Harinam is invested with the full potency of the Lord. Harinam is absolutely transcendental and possesses the power to dissolve the illusion of the entire material creation at will. Another verse is chanted from the Vishnu Dharma Purana, Almighty Monarch, those who utter Krishna and other munificent names of the Supreme Lord destroy the millions of reprehensible sins that they have committed. Of course, the example is Ajamil. The Brihad Naradiya Purana states, O best of the Brahmanas, chanting Harinam is the atonement that destroys all sins. And I consider one who gives up chanting Harinam to be no more than an animal. Whoa. And that's not a unnecessary criticism, because those who give up Harinam, what will they do? They will go back to material life and eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are the activities of animal life. The Brihad Vishnu Puran states Harinam possesses such incredible powers of purifying any sin that even the most sinful person is unable to commit so many sins that Harinam cannot exalt. So we're hearing about the unlimited mercy of the holy name. That even if we have the examples of Jagai and Madai, who were so sinful, but they received the mercy of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya and began chanting the holy names of the Lord. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified them as being as good as any other devotee in his entourage as they progressed in their chanting of the holy name. So the holy name can change a demon into a saint. These scriptural quotes continue, give only a partial impression of the uniqueness of Sri Harinam. Remember that statement, only a partial. Karmis and Gyanis, greedy for pecuniary profits by protecting the prestige of their own misguided endeavors, deceive people by saying that these scriptural statements are fictitious and pompous. They say that such praises are heaped upon Harinam in order to motivate people to chant, and that in reality these praises are nothing more than exaggerated falsities. How can such ignorant offenders ever cultivate taste in chanting Harinam? Therefore, one chanting of Harinam must be strengthened by faith in the scriptures and glorifications. Yeah, so we need to hear regularly from Guru and Shastra about the process of pure devotional service, and particularly the chanting of the holy name, which will strengthen our faith in the holy name, which will automatically strengthen our chanting of the quality of the holy name. Simultaneously, association with offenders to holy names must be strictly avoided. Sri Mahaprabhu has given the advice that a devotee who even just accidentally met such an offender to Harinam has to cleanse himself by bathing himself in a holy river while still in his clothes. That's very, very powerful statement, that one who simply sees or associates with those who offend the holy name, then immediately they should take bath in the holy river and don't even consider changing clothes, just jump right in. The sixth offense is to consider Krishna Nam as imaginary or fictitious proposition. This is somewhat a continuation of the previous offense. The Mayavadi speculators and gross materialists conclude that Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, is impersonal, formless, and nameless. They speculate that names such as Raman, Krishna, and so on are fabricated by the sages and given to Brahman only to accomplish a specific purpose. When such purpose has been achieved, the names are no longer necessary. This is the opinion of Harinam given by these demoniac offenders. I can think of one such person who responds in this way. He is a person who is now known as a great sadhu, but he has no faith in the holy name nor in the names of the Supreme Lord. He thinks that this is all created, and therefore he is a gross offender, and he's given the status of being no better than a demon. Okay, and then there are those, which is also mentioned here, who take the name of Ram and Krishna and chant it, and they think there is a benefit in chanting it, but when that benefit is achieved, then the names are no longer necessary. In other words, they considered a ladder to a higher principle. And the higher principle is above the holy name. And the holy name is only the stepping stone to get there. And this is another form of offense. Krishna Nam is eternal and transcendental and descends from supramundane plane to appear through the spiritualized senses of a faithful chanter, purified by Hari Bhakti Sadhana. Aspiring sadhakas must receive proper instruction from the Shastras and their Nam Gurus about the absolute divinity of Harinam and then chant sincerely. Otherwise, they will be disqualified from receiving Nam Kripa, mercy of Sri Nam. They must, so in order to chant properly, one must receive instructions and guidance from both Krishna through the Shastras and from the spiritual master. And then their chanting will develop. We're going way above time here, and there's a lot more to go. Let's see. Yeah. So we'll continue. The seventh offense is another, it's called the most dangerous offense, is to commit sinful acts relying on the purifying power of chanting Harinam to absolve one of the future negative karmic reactions. Such a motivated offense cannot be absolved by any of the process, nor by atonement. This offense and the sin committed in connection to this offense can be purified by the mercy of Harinam only, because they all fall within the sphere of Namaparad. And then the disciple, Vijay, he says, Gurudev, if every kind of sin is destroyed by Harinam, how is it possible that those who chant Harinam commit offense against him? Raghunath Das Babaji says, the moment the jiva achieves the shelter of Sudanam, one utterance of Krishna is enough to extirpate all sins, both parabdha and aparabdha. Parabdha means those that are developing and those that have matured. Parabdha is matured and aparabdha is developing. Therefore, by chanting of Sudanam, the jiva reaps prema. Immersed in prema, one who chants Sudanam has no affinity for sin and is repelled at the very thought of performing even pious activities. In addition, he is not in the least attracted to liberation. What then is the question of his committing sin? However, he goes on to explain, as far as chanting of the sadhakas, it is still on the level of namabhas, because namaparad still lingers faintly within his consciousness. However, even namabhas chanting gradually eradicates all parabdha and aparabdha sinful reactions and elicits disgust at committing further sins. If by chance some sin is accidentally committed, the namabhas chanting also destroys that. We talked about that. Intentional sinning with the desire to get purified is the offense, but if by accident, still the chanting can relieve that. If the devotee tries to exploit this sin eradicating potential of the Hari name by carrying out further sinful activities premeditatedly or of sheer nonchalance, thinking that the chanting will certainly vindicate him from his sins, then his sins escalate into serious namaraparad. This is why this offense is called the most dangerous offense. And one cannot cheat Krishna by thinking, well, here is the method, here is the way I can get the best of both. I can commit some sinful activities or some materialistic activities and then chant and get the offense eradicated. No. As it says here, then his sins escalate into serious namaparad. But the holy name is very merciful. If it happens accidentally, then it can relieve the reaction. Okay, so we'll do 8, 9, and 10 at another time because we're getting on in time here. It's already 45 minutes past the hour. So let's stop here and we'll stop the share screen and we'll open it up to questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for explaining all these 7 offenses to the holy name today. Thank you so much. I request devotees, if there are any questions, comments, realizations, please go ahead. Vrindavan Nath Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Guru Maharaj, thank you very much for highlighting this in all the offenses in holy name. And as we say that if devotee chant holy name even once with pure, complete purity, in pure state, then life will be successful. What exactly it means, Guru Maharaj?
Well, the pure holy name can eradicate, just like when the sun is out, it completely dissipates the darkness. The holy name is like the light of the bright light of the sun and of Krishna's mercy coming into the heart of a devotee. So whatever sinful reactions are there are immediately destroyed by that one chanting. But then again, don't think that I'm okay. You are okay. Right then you have reached pure devotional service. But if you go back again to doing the same thing again after, and you're going to again accumulate more reactions on the material level. So, but at that time when you chant purely, Ajamil came to the point of chanting in Namabas. He didn't chant Sudanam. And because he didn't chant Sudanam, he had to go and to Hardwar and spend 12 more years finishing up his life in Hardwar, and then he went back home, back to Godhead. He realized how sinful he was, and he realized how merciful the holy name was. He repented all the sinful activities after becoming purified from that. He had reached a very high stage of bhakti because of his because of his humility in accepting the mercy of the holy name completely. And therefore, but if he didn't continue on with his spiritual life and went back to his material life again, then he would be again building up the same sinful reactions that were once destroyed. So that's what it means at that time. Everything is there. Prabhupada used to say, now that you come to Krishna consciousness, now that you're engaged in devotional service, you are on the liberated platform. Don't go back to material life again. You're already liberated as long as you stay engaged in devotional service.
So, Guru Maharaj, when we say don't go back to material life, it means like don't go back to material life in terms of enjoyment.
No, don't take up your old ways again, you know. And material life means material desires. Material desires are understood in different ways. There's different kinds of material desires, but that means exclusively all material desires. Material desires means personal gain based on fruitive activities. That's what material desires are. They can be in the mode, in any of the three modes, even in the mode of goodness. Stay in devotional service. Don't look to material life to find fulfillment. Something that we gave up. Now we're on the liberated platform. Now we go back for some reason. What is the reason why we want to go back? Well, we're not fully convinced that spiritual life is everything. There are people, and it's mentioned, they're afraid of spiritual advancement. Although they're devotees, they're afraid to make spiritual advancement. Why? Because they know that they don't want to give up certain aspects of their material life, and therefore they're fearful of spiritual advancement. It says in one statement, those who hate illumination, they actually want to use spiritual life up to a certain point to be free from material suffering, but they don't want to give up their certain aspects of their material life, certain attachments. And therefore, they're afraid to go beyond a certain point. And therefore, they vacillate in spiritual life, and eventually they find themselves going backwards, unless they recognize their wrong mentality and again take up the process seriously. That's why we pray to the Lord, my dear Lord, whatever is there in my life that's holding me back from accepting fully your lotus feet, destroy that. Whatever is not there in my life that I need to come to you, full surrender to your lotus feet, please bring that on. Devotee wants to go back to Godhead. He wants to be purified. He sees this material world for what it is, simply a prison house of suffering in various forms, that's all. Even if one is not suffering the raw, hard nature of material life, still, material life is an anomaly. It has nothing to do with the soul's existence. It is a foreign existence. It's there because of our falling from the spiritual world. And if we think there's something here that is going to give us fulfillment, satisfaction, and success in life, then we cannot actually make advancement in devotional service. Whether it's family, occupation, physical comforts, all of these material attachments water down our determination to become Krishna conscious. Therefore, one has to come to that platform that there's nothing in this material world I want. That doesn't mean you can't have family. It means that means your family is grihastha life, not grihamedi life.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. It's really, really very timely and very important, not only a message and instruction, but a beautiful prayer like holding Lord's lotus feet, and anything which comes in the way gets removed.
Yeah. We don't really understand the treasure of such attainment. It's beyond our ability, and therefore we don't aspire for it. Generally, we want material happiness and spiritual satisfaction together. That is our position generally. We want the best of both worlds, but you can't have it because one is contrary to the other. But when you're Krishna consciousness, then everything in your life is wonderful. Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm seeing the whole world is happy. Why? Because he's happy from being Krishna conscious.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Really, really helpful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Srimati Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All wish to Shri Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, in your previous classes, you mentioned that we have to expect struggles all the time. Yeah, we are we are always struggling with chanting and taking time out for reading everything. So, but as the time passes, so at least we should be able to chant nicely without any struggle and take out time for reading and get the taste for reading. So, but even after so many years of practice of Krishna consciousness, even if I am struggling still, so how does it show?
Well, the struggle takes on different forms as you make progress, and then it becomes more subtle. First, we're struggling with the gross levels of our attachments, giving up meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. That's the gross forms, and other material activities that are related to these four activities. And as we get fixed in Krishna consciousness and no longer look towards them anymore, then on a more subtle level, then we have to deal with pride. We have to deal with becoming critical of others. We have to deal with more of the subtle aspects of our material life. We have to deal with getting rid of envy, with getting rid of pride, getting rid of fault finding, getting rid of wanting to be glorified as somebody who's special in spiritual life. Well, these are the more subtle aspects that still require a type of struggle. But you're always, Krishna doesn't test you beyond your level to succeed, but you may appear like that. He won't place before you something that you can't overcome. But struggle is there, but then as we get past the gross ones and the subtle ones are more harder to see. The false ego, these other things are elements of the false ego. And the false ego is the subtlest of all of the material characteristics. So even hard to see. You know, we do something, we may want to get some appreciation or some praise for that. That's an element of the false ego. If you get appreciation and praise, that's fine. But to want it is the material desire.
Yeah, Guru Maharaj, I always think that so after a particular stage, I should easily wake up early and do chanting and easily get to read books, stay stuff. So, but I'm not getting that. So I have some expectations on myself, which I'm not able to fulfill them. So even I'm thinking like, what is the use? Like how many years I'm there in this and still I'm struggling.
Welcome to Krishna consciousness. But enjoy the struggle. See the blockades or the obstacles as opportunities to overcome them. And then you have to take shelter of scripture and knowledge to understand what they are and how to overcome them. That's why we have to hear regularly. So we present our questions in the terms of what we're struggling with, and then we get some insight on how to overcome that struggle, and then we apply this formula, and gradually we make advancement. But to go back home, back to Godhead, means you have to be completely pure, both from the subtle and gross elements of material life. So each of the gross elements or gross material desires has a subtle root connected to it. It's like if you give up sex life, what is the subtle root of sex life? Is adoration, profit, and distinction. Want to be known, want to be praised. This is subtle form of sex life. No one may be no more interested in the gross aspects and not engaged in it, but then the subtle is there. And the subtle also is the roots of the material desires. And if we don't pull out these subtle aspects, then the gross ones can again come back and haunt us in our spiritual practice. So what is the antidote in sadhu sangha? In association with devotees. And Prabhupada was saying yesterday, I was listening on the tape, he said we should do kirtan more and more and more, because he said by kirtan, you purify yourself. You make fast progress back to Godhead. You get develop the taste. We have to do kirtan. It's important.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah. Thank you so much. And I really liked today's daily drops of nectar, where you said that we should not hesitate to open up to the spiritual master, be transparent to spiritual master, and we should not hide our struggles. And
the spiritual master is not judgmental. He's not going to judge you for whatever anarthas are there. He's like a doctor. If the patient comes into the doctor's office, the doctor's saying, oh, look at that patient. He's got this disease. He's got that disease. And the doctor's judging him. No, the doctor's there to help him. That's the spiritual master. It's not there to find fault with whatever fault you have. He's there to help you overcome that. Because we all go through these different levels of struggle, and each one of us has to face these things and then move on to the next stage of practice.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
But never get discouraged, because victor will be attained by those who stay fixed in Krishna consciousness despite the difficulties they encounter. I mean, Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee, but look what Krishna put him through. He had 2 heart attacks. He had on the boat. He had no association. He had a 3rd one that the astrologer said that he was meant to die at that particular time. Plus, he had a movement that he was trying to develop with people who didn't know anything about, the spiritual culture. They came from backgrounds that were quite materialistic. So Prabhupada had to go through a lot. He even said it. He said, I had to walk through fire. And he said this, I didn't look left, I didn't look right. I had to walk through fire. And so that's an example, if he would get discouraged more, become what we say less enthusiastic because of obstacles, and where would our movement be today? Because Krishna is always with the devotee, and that's the fact. Even if you're going through the most difficult time, you just take shelter of Krishna. Krishna is there, and he's going to help you if you take help from him. Mm-hmm. But if you don't take help, and the mind just becomes discouraged or becomes negative for whatever reason, then you have to, how are you going to make any advancement? So enjoy the struggle. That's all I can say. Just like you enjoy what is enjoyable, you enjoy because the struggle is like when you're getting cured of a disease, sometimes the disease gets worse before it gets better. But that's part of the process of becoming cured. But association with devotees and chanting the holy names of the Lord are the antidote by which we can stay happy in Krishna consciousness. If we don't accept these 2 things, how will we have the tools to overcome the challenges that we face. So it's a process. It's not just applying some philosophical teachings. It's more than that. It's actually performing activities. If we don't go to the temple, if we don't associate with devotees, if we don't go to the kirtans, how are we gonna make any advancement?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I understood. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. I understood. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Linda. Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila.
One thing I can say, Srimati, one more thing is, look where you were a year ago and look where you are now.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
You can see you've made advancement, no doubt. So it's happening, but you might just not think it's not happening fast enough. But it's happening.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sridevi.
Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine lotus feet. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And such wonderful discussions are taking place. I'm so grateful for all these wonderful questions that my God sisters are placing before you. I just want to ask this question. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. This is like, the time immemorial formula, especially among Indians. Yes, we are doing some religious work. Yes, but our economic development, and then do little something, and then ultimately we are going to get moksha. But how far is this process really working, and how far are people actually following even this process? Isn't that questionable?
Yeah, unless they follow the Varna ashram system, it's not going to work. They have to do it according to Varna and ashram. These are the basic, the material success in society, or the development on these different levels, is within the Varna ashram system. Varna ashram is material, but it is the foundation by which one grows in spiritual life. You have to follow Varnashram, but in most societies in the world don't know what Varnashram is, nor do they follow it. Everything is mixed up, topsy-turvy. Therefore, there's no real hope. Therefore, people use Artha for Kama, that's all. Artha is not meant for Kama, but it leads to Kama. But Kama has to be regulated, and not simply this unlimited amounts of Kama. It's regulated according to Varna and ashram.
Right. So it's really all everybody doing everything whimsically, independently, with no proper guidance, with just doing whatever comes into their head and hoping for the best, like that.
Well, unless you follow a system of development, even the materialists, some of them, they have a regulated schedule, but it's all based on developing these things to the maximum, that's all. There's our materialistic people who understand that they should eat at a certain time, they should sleep at a certain time, they should work at a certain time, they should take care of their personal needs at a certain time. There's a class of people who are regulated. But it's all about improving these things and not minimizing them so you could practice spiritual life.
So then who actually gains moksha, if at all they do?
That moksha is is Kaivalya. That's what it is.
That means merging into the Brahman effulgence?
Well, yeah. That's Kaivalya. But it's not the four other forms of moksha, the devotional moksha.
Right.
Shastri, Sarupya, Samipa, Salokya. Those four are not included in this type of moksha.
So with all the sinful activities going around, there is hardly any hope of even properly following this dharma, artha, kama, moksha. It's very likely it's
That's what Prabhupada said.
right.
At first, he was thinking establish in Vanashram, but then he saw things are too topsy-turvy. Where do you start? So when Prabhupada understood that Vanashram can only be done on a spiritual level, and therefore he called it Daivi Vanashram, where one works according to their ashram, engages in devotional service according to their material tendencies. That's all. And uses their material tendencies as a service. That's all. That's success. But in the material world, people might understand what are their material tendencies, but it's all based on getting sense gratification. That's all. That's the goal.
And
And when
there's
sense gratification reaches a certain level, then they want moksha. Because sense gratification cannot satisfy, it's not possible. For the gross materialists, sometimes they want moksha, but other times they just become suicidal or violent, either one. They turn in on themselves or they turn outward towards others. Material sense gratification leads to either degradation or simply self-immolation, that's all. That's why lamentation is so high. People just lament their whole life, that's all. They're always lamenting.
So it's really very bleak for anybody who is not actually knowing who is God and not engaging in the loving service of Krishna. It's a very bleak scenario, isn't it?
That's why we have to preach. We're not, the doctor says, well, everybody's sick, what can we do? Well, you fix them. We're meant to help people by giving them Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yes, very true. Yes, Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisance. Thank you so much.
Mayapur is not for retirement,
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Raj Prabhu has raised his hand. Prabhuji, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all of the Vaishnavas. Maharaj, I was meditating on your class from yesterday, and I was wondering, how can we identify those deep-rooted barriers that we cannot see that are preventing us from chanting purely or making good progress?
Read the scriptures. When you start reading the scriptures, you'll be reading your own autobiography, your own personal evaluation. When you read the scriptures, you'll start to personally, you'll be able to see where you're at and where you need to go. Here, Read. These are signs that awaken us to our present situation and show us what is where we can make progress. I had that realization yesterday. I was reading the Ramayana. Something really hit me, and it kind of indicated something that I should focus on more. And it came by reading, nothing else. So it happens. You start seeing what is the ideal. The examples in the scriptures that are given, they're meant to teach us the lives of the great saints, or even the lives of the sinful people that are mentioned in the scriptures. Show us, what to avoid, what we need to do, where we are. They're like mirrors to help us see our own self.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. I shall do that.
Or if you're not sure, you can ask somebody to say, hey, what's wrong with me? Somebody who's close to you, someone who's qualified to respond. But the problem is we don't want to make advancement. We want to think we're okay. But we want to make advancement at the same time we don't want to change. That's our problem.
Okay.
We use a statement. We come to learn and we learn to serve.
But who is it that we're serving, I guess?
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Namrata.
Namrata Mataji, go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Lotus Feet Maharaj. Maharaj, I just wanted to share my realization from quite few days, yes. I feel as if when I'm chanting, maybe around 15-20 beats or so, I really get a good absorption, and it comes automatically. And then in other times, it happens that I have to really work hard, or like it's like as if something is rushing through your thoughts are rushing through the door, and you're like standing against the door to not let it come out, and you're making an effort, you're making an endeavor, and in between sometimes everything just becomes effortless, but that is just for like few 15-20 beats in a round, and then again after 2-3 rounds I have that same kind of thing. So it comes in the breakages. So how do I understand this, Maharaj?
Okay, I'll answer your question in 1 minute. Someone is at the door, and I have to let them in. Yeah. I'm in the middle of a class here. You can stay here, just stay here and relax. And listen in a minute. So your question is basically, why do you go in and out of the holy name, right?
Yes, yes, Maharaj.
Well, that means you haven't reached pure chanting yet. If you can stay in the holy name all the time, that means your chanting is actually on the level of pure chanting. But the mind is there, so you want to know how to keep that door closed when all these thoughts are rushing in. One of the things that helps is prayer.
Okay.
We have to pray. When you come to the point that you're not able to, we try to hear, and we put the hearing sound in a stronger position than the voice of the mind, which is pushing us in different directions. So we try to conquer the mind with the sound of the holy name and not let the mind conquer the holy name. And that's why Prabhupada would emphasize loud chanting, because that helps to overcome this chatter that the mind kind of. But if you're going in and out, of course, we recommend that there's different prayers. I've sent that along many times, different prayers that we can adopt during, before, both during and before the chanting of the holy name. But sounds like you're making nice advancement, that you can absorb yourself for a period of time. But the nature of the mind, that is, it moves, it keeps moving, it doesn't stay in one place. To give it a more scientific explanation, there's different aspects to the mind that are different, they call it wavelengths. And you have the alpha length, you have the beta length, you have the gamma length, then you have the delta length, the delta wave. Delta waves are the meditation waves. That's when the mind is completely peaceful and clear at the same time. Delta is synonymous with sleep. When we're in sleep, the mind is on the delta level, but there's no consciousness, there's no external consciousness. When we can attain that delta level in our chanting, then what we have is clear consciousness, where you can hear the name very clearly and the mind is stable. It's not moving from here to there. So I'm just giving the scientific explanation, but chanting is a devotional process. It's a process of awakening our desire to attain the association of Krishna through the chanting of the holy name. So there has to be an eagerness that is coupled with that. So practice these different prayers and apply them accordingly when you're chanting. and see if you find yourself more able to stabilize your consciousness in the chanting of the holy name. Because at one stage, when the mind actually develops attraction for the chanting, then the mind will also take you into the chanting also. But because it's not constant, it's flickering. Sometimes we go on for a few rounds and then it's back off again. Or sometimes we only go on for a few beats and it goes back off again. But that's the nature of the mind. So just keep bringing the mind back, that's all. Just like when you're riding a horse, you have to keep the reins on the horse in a certain, what we say, pull. You don't pull too hard, you don't relax the reins either. If you pull too hard, the horse jumps. If you're not pulling hard enough, the horse will go which way it wants. So gradually move your mind, move the sound into the hearing process and try to keep it there. When it goes off, bring it back, that's all. Recognize. Sometimes devotees fail to recognize when their mind goes off. The thought comes and then they get absorbed in the thought. And then after some time, they realize they're not in the holy name. Although the holy name is going on, they're more in the thought process. So, but when you practice enough, you will start to see that as soon as your mind goes off, you can immediately bring it back to the sound vibration again. And if you're able to do that, then you're able to stay within the chanting of the holy name even more. And it becomes more continuous.
Yes, Maharaj. So, Maharaj, there are some times when I realize that, okay, since I'm trying very hard, so I realize that at this point my mind is going out, and then when I try to bring it back to the holy name or to the sound vibration, then it's like it's an artificial effort at that time.
Well, no, if you're trying to bring it back, why would it be artificial? It's more mechanical.
Artificial as in maybe mechanical effort at that time, but
And sometimes the mechanical efforts are necessary. Sometimes you have to move that horse in the direction you want to go. And sometimes you can just hold the reins and it's going in the proper way. Sometimes you have to pull this way or that way, yeah. So don't consider it artificial, but it may be some effort you have to make in order to bring the mind back, yeah. We do that all the time. Just like Sachinanda Maharaj has really given us a real insight to help us in our chanting. He says, try to hear the first Hare when you chant. And when you focus on that first Hare, and it helps to keep the mind focused on the rest of the mantra. So each time you come again to the beginning of the mantra, put emphasis on that Hare. And then he says, after some time, then it goes to Hare Krishna. But first it starts with Hare. He says it's just like entering into a body of moving water. You might want to get the feel of the water at first. In order to do that, you proceed accordingly. But after some time, when you're in the water, then the water automatically carries you. So the name will carry you once you get in. But sometimes you fall out for whatever reason, just bring it back, that's all. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whenever and wherever the mind wanders due to its unsteady and flickering nature, bring it back under the control of the self. So it's an effort.
yes, Maharaj.
We all have our times when the holy name is just flowing and we're just so much in bliss. And then other times it's like trying to run up Mount Kilimanjaro with a backpack. So prepare yourself for chanting. Like if you're tired, it's going to be harder. If you have enough rest, it'll be much easier to practice the chanting. So these are certain things, so also, if the environment is conducive, in other words, there's no outside disturbances, then it's also good. If there is outside disturbances, then you find that that also distracts from your attention, or at least subtly. So there are also external things that we need to do. Make sure we have enough rest, find that sacred space where we can chant.
And one more thing, Maharaj, when there is out, in and out. So when there is out, when the mind goes, there are thoughts coming in. So basically, most of the time, maybe 90% of the time, thoughts are maybe the instruction what the spiritual master has given, or the devotional service, but still are they considered to be distracting, even if we get this kind of thing?
Prabhupada talks about that. He says they're not material, but still, chanting means to hear the holy name. So it's not ideal chanting. Although they're related to devotional service, there's a time for that. And then we can't, when we see that happening, now we all, this is something I struggle with in the things that I need to do in devotional service. I get ideas sometimes when I'm chanting that are related to my service. And sometimes I find it becomes profuse. And then I have to think, well, that's nice, but still, I'm not here to plan out my devotional service through chanting. I'm here to try to connect to the holy name.
Okay.
So senior devotees have come up with some kind of formula for that. They say when you get ideas in your devotional service, keep a pencil and paper nearby and write it down and forget about it. By writing it down, then you can go back. At least you have it on paper and you can refer back to it later.
Right.
But don't make that a continuous habit through the whole 16 rounds.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, I used to get this kind of ideas very much, but I think now the intensity of those ideas have reduced a lot, reduced up to a certain extent. So the absorption is going on, but I'm still in and out. It's going there, but yeah,
That's the way.
I
That's
feel
the way it'll be. How do you roll? Did you make the offering yet? Did you put a sweet on? Which one?
I put sandesh and I put one of these little cats.
Oh, what he made.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine, but don't put on sandesh. Put on those
The tongues.
the tongues, yeah. Because I put on sandesh this morning. You want to give them a variety.
Should we take out the sandwich or should we just
You
leave?
just add it, add more of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, enjoy the struggle.
Yes.
Sometimes we find reasons to fight, but here's a good chance that you can fight in a good way now. Fight against that mind instead of fighting against the external environment.
Yes, Maharaj. True.
Yes, Sri Devi.
Yes, please go ahead, Mataji.
Was our hostess sleeping? Come on, why are you sleeping? You're supposed to be on top of this stuff here. I'm not supposed to be the host, you are.
Oh, yes, Maharaj.
You have to know what to do next, not me.
Yes, Maharaj. Sorry.
I'm supposed to just answer the questions. I'm not the, the organizer.
Yes, Maharaj. Sorry. Yes, Sri Devi Mataji, please go ahead.
Dear Guru Maharaj, I'm quite intrigued by what you said much earlier. You said that we are actually afraid of making spiritual advancement. We hate the illumination. So I'm a little concerned that I might be actually sabotaging myself here by making excuses not to make spiritual advancement because I'm afraid.
Yeah. It means you don't have enough faith. Faith is weak. You need to build your faith. You can build your faith by hearing the glories of the Lord. Not just the holy name, but the glories of the Lord. Glories of the Lord conclude his qualities and his pastimes. And this is the higher taste of Krishna's sweetness, his pastimes, his glories. So when you know there's a whole realm of spiritual happiness in front of you, then this fear of making advancement starts to go away.
Mm.
But you have to experience that.
Now on Sunday, we're starting a book reading club with some other senior Matajis for the first time. I'm thinking that for me, it is essential to have strong association of senior Matajis. So I have humbly invited some ladies to come so that I can start reading the books in their association with their guidance.
Good. Sounds beneficial.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much, Maharaj. I don't see any more questions or raised hands now. If you permit, then we can end the call here. It is not. Is it okay to end the call, Maharaj? Because I don't see questions.
That's up to you.
I need your permission.
Mataji, I want to
Yes, Mataji.
announce. Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj, I just want to remind you about tomorrow's class. That is with ISKCON Harrisburg devotees. That is verse is Srimad Bhagavatam 1.10.17. First canto.
110:17.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. 110:17.
Okay. Were you able to connect with
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I connect
with Dimple?
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Today I'm going to talk to her.
Okay.
So we are going to make a plan. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you all tomorrow along with the devotees from Harrisburg.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. No.
Thank you for your time and association. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you, devotees, for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.